the skinwalker that learned my voice from TikTok lives. He didn't know that giving the story a title like that was already a mistake. He didn't know that naming it, sharing it, turning it into content would give it more ways to find people. He didn't know that every time someone watched his live, every time someone replayed that night, more doorways opened. But he would. And by listening to this, by letting this story run in the background while the room around you slowly darkens, you're opening one more. He lived in a town that people only passed through, a stitched-together strip of gas stations and broken neon signs on the edge of real emptiness. Desert to one side, a sparse forest, and scrub hills to the other. His name was Liam, 22, not special, not cursed. Just another guy who had figured out that talking to strangers on TikTok Live was easier than talking to the people around him. It started last October, when the nights got cold enough that the air felt thin and sharp, and he began streaming late into the night, alone in his mother's old house at the edge of town. It was quiet out there. No neighbors close enough to complain, no traffic. Just the tick-tick of the cooling roof and the slow hum of the fridge. He set up his ring light on an old dresser, balanced his phone on a stack of books, and talked. Whispered sometimes, laughed with people he'd never meet, took questions, told true, spooky stories, stayed up until 3 in the morning because sleep always felt worse than being tired. He thought the danger of it was normal. Weird parasocial relationships, maybe a stalker showing up someday, maybe someone swatting his address. He never thought that something on the other side of the glass was listening too, learning. He didn't know that what he'd found that night would awaken something ancient and show it a brand new way to hunt. Liam's followers liked the late-night mood, the way the ring light carved his face out of the darkness, while the rest of the room behind him was soft and shadowy. Story time? They'd type. Tell something creepy. Bro, your voice is so calming. I fall asleep to your lives every night. He was good at it. He had that low, steady tone that made people feel like they were in the same room with him, like he was sitting at the end of their bed, talking just to them while the rest of the world stayed asleep. He would rest his elbows on the desk, fingers wrapped around a chipped mug, and talk about urban legends, unsolved disappearances, weird Reddit posts. He would drift between horror and comfort, between the feeling of a fireside and the feeling of a confession booth. That night, the first night it really started, the house was extra quiet. The kind of quiet where every small noise stood out. The wind had died. The old heater hadn't kicked in yet. The only sound was him, and the faint buzz of the cheap phone charger plugged into the wall. He watched the viewer count climb into the hundreds, likes rolling up the side of the screen, tiny hearts, pumpkin emojis. Someone asked, "Have you ever had something creepy happen on live?" He shook his head, smiling. "On live? Not really," he said. "You guys would know before I did if something was behind me. You're all obsessed with catching ghosts in my closet." The chat flooded with laughing emojis and LOL facts, and "I swear I saw something last week." He took a breath, leaned in closer to the phone. "But this house is old," he said softly. "It creaks, it pops, and sometimes, when the connection is bad, the audio glitches. If you ever hear me talking when my mouth isn't moving, that's probably just TikTok being TikTok." He didn't know he had just predicted exactly what was coming. He didn't know that something else in the dark was listening very carefully to how his voice curled around words. The first time it spoke, no one realized what it was, not even him. He'd been talking for about 40 minutes, telling some story about a girl waking up to see a man watching her sleep, the kind of thing his audience liked. Outside, the desert was a black sheet, no moon, no wind, just that hollow stillness you get far from cities, where sound seems to fall straight down instead of echoing. He paused to sip from his mug, The hot chocolate had gone lukewarm and thick. He grimaced, set it down, and as he did, the live glitched, or that's what everyone thought. Half a second of static, and then, in his own voice, from his own phone speaker, overlapping his silence, "Someone's at the door." He blinked. For a split second, he thought he'd accidentally hit a soundboard button, except he didn't have a soundboard. He stared at the screen, at himself, at the chat. It reacted before he could. Wait, he just said someone's at the door? Door? Bro, you good? I replayed that, WTF. Liam licked his lips, felt the room suddenly colder. I didn't say that, he told them. His own voice sounded normal again, slightly amused, slightly unnerved. I think the audio glitched. Bad Wi-Fi. He laughed it off. That's what you do on live. You smooth over the weirdness. You keep the energy up. He turned in his chair and glanced at the front door anyway. The hallway behind him was just a dark line, the door itself out of frame. Nothing moved. He told himself it was fine, just a bug, just lag. But later, when the live ended and he lay in bed with the house finally silent again, his brain replayed the sound. The voice was his. Same tone, same timbre, but there was something slow about it, like someone had listened to him for a long time, then tried to copy him, syllable by syllable. Someone's at the door. He hadn't been expecting anyone, and when he'd checked the peephole 10 minutes after the glitch, the porch had been empty except for a torn flyer stuck in a crack and the black, unlit road beyond. He slept with a lamp on that night. He told himself that was because he'd stayed up too late telling scary stories. He didn't know yet that his voice had been harvested, captured, sliced up into pieces, and filed away in something's memory. He didn't know that it had just finished its first test run. Over the next week, his lives, they grew. The clip of him saying someone was at the door got screen recorded and posted with a caption. This TikTok live glitched and told him someone was at the door, but he didn't say it. It didn't go full viral, but it did well enough. A couple 100,000 views. Paranormal pages picked it up. People stitched it, duetted it, slowed the audio down, ran it through editing apps. Some said it was just lag. Some said it was an old audio looping. A few said it sounded like an AI voice clone gone wrong. Meanwhile, Liam's follower count ticked upward. New faces in his lives, new usernames, new little profile pictures that felt like eyes peering through keyholes at him. He leaned into it a bit. People liked spooky. He could do spooky. You guys keep asking about the door voice, he said on one live a few days later. I swear I didn't say it. I listened back. It's like someone scraped my audio and pressed play at the perfect time. The chat exploded with suggestions. Demon, ghost, AI glitch, SKINWALKER. That last one popped up a lot. The app's algorithm had apparently decided that people who watched SKINWALKER stories also liked his content. He read the comments out loud. A SKINWALKER, huh? He said, half mocking, half intrigued. I don't live near a res, guys. Just a boring old town with a dying Walmart and a good view of the stars. The truth was, he did live about an hour from a reservation, not right next to it, but close enough that kids at his school had grown up with stories that weren't just from movies. He remembered one guy from high school, Ezra, telling him, in a quiet, serious voice, that you didn't say certain words at night, that you didn't whistle at the dark, that if something called your name from outside in your own voice, you did not answer. Back then, Liam had rolled his eyes. Now, those old warnings tugged at the back of his mind like a cold fingertip on his neck. He ignored it. He kept streaming. Because the views were good. Because the gifts were rolling in. Because sitting in that bright ring of light with hundreds of people typing to him felt less lonely than lying silently in his room listening to the house breathe. The second incident happened a few nights later. He'd been live for almost an hour. The view count was around 800, higher than usual, and chat was flying so fast he had to squint to read anything. He was midway through telling a story when his throat went dry. He stopped to swallow, raising one hand to his neck. As soon as he fell silent, his own voice again, from the phone, not his mouth. "I can hear you," it said. The words rolled out slow, careful, each syllable wrapped in a weird, hushed excitement. Liam's heart stuttered. He watched his own face on screen. His lips parted, but they weren't moving with the words. There was a 2-second gap between what he felt in his throat and the sound from the speaker. The chat erupted. "Bro, your lips weren't moving." "Hello?" He said, "I can hear you, WTF." Lag. "Replay that." Liam forced a smile. His palms were slick with sweat. "I think TikTok's possessed tonight," he joked, but his voice cracked on the last word. "I swear I didn't say that. You guys heard that, right? I didn't." The audio desynced again, just for a heartbeat. On the screen, his own mouth lagged behind the sound. For a split second, it looked like there were two versions of him layered over each other, one speaking, one just staring. Then it snapped back. "Okay," he said, his breath shallow. "Okay, we're going to ignore that. New story. Someone send a rose. I need a palate cleanser." His viewers did what viewers do. They turned it into content. Clips of "I can hear you" spread around. People argued in comments. Some swore they heard another voice underneath his, a faint rasp, like something dragging across concrete. Others said it was just lag, green screen effects, attention-seeking. Liam watched the clips with the volume low, his stomach twisting. He noticed something none of them did. The second time, the words didn't sound quite like him. The pitch was right. The cadence was almost there, but the emotion was wrong. He tried saying, "I can hear you," out loud in his room alone, mimicking the same tone, and it felt off, like trying on clothes that almost fit, but pinched in strange places. He closed the videos and turned his phone face down on the bed. His bedroom felt too big suddenly, too quiet. The dark corners behind the dresser seemed heavier. He told himself, again, that it was just tech. TikTok playing back-cached audio, server lag, anything but the feeling that something out there, something in the desert or in the airwaves or both, had listened to him night after night and was now practicing his voice, sharpening it. The first time he heard it off the phone, he almost convinced himself he'd imagined it. It was past 2 a.m. The live had ended an hour before. He talked until his throat ached and his eyes burned, and then finally hit the X in the corner of the screen. The room dropped into a different kind of silence. The ring light clicked as it cooled. The heater hummed on in the hallway. He sat for a minute, staring at his reflection in the now dark phone screen. Without the filter smoothing everything, he looked tired, too pale. Little red veins in the whites of his eyes from staring at blue light. He pushed back his chair, the wooden legs scraping softly on the floor, and stood up. The house was dim. Only one lamp in the living room was on, casting a yellow puddle of light across the carpet. The rest was shadow and familiar shapes. He walked to the kitchen for water. The faucet squeaked when he turned it. The tap water was metallic and lukewarm. He was halfway through the glass when he heard it from the hallway behind him. Liam. His own voice, soft, right behind his left ear. Every muscle in his body locked. The glass trembled in his hand. He turned his head slowly. The hallway was empty. The bathroom door stood slightly open, the dark rectangle of the shower beyond. The front door at the end of the hall was closed, deadbolt latched. He listened, his heartbeat roaring in his ears. "Just tired," he whispered to himself, forcing a breath out. "You've been listening to your own voice for hours. Of course you're hearing things." He set the glass down on the counter with a shaking hand. "Liam." This time, it came from the other side, from the living room. He spun around, chest tight. Again, nothing. Just the couch, the TV, the window, black and reflective like a dark mirror. His own pale face staring back at him, distorted by the glass. The sound hadn't come from outside. It hadn't come from his phone, which was still lying on the desk in his room. It had seemed to come from the walls. He swallowed hard, tongue dry. "Okay," he said aloud. His voice wobbled. "If someone is messing with me, it's not funny." Silence. The fridge kicked on again. A clock ticked faintly in the hallway. He waited, every nerve stretched. Nothing. Finally, he walked back to his room, turned the ring light back on, and slept with it blazing into his closed eyes. The next day, he told himself it had been leftover audio in his head, like when you hear a song on loop after listening to it all day. Earworms, phantom echoes. He went live again that night. He told a story about a haunted radio station. His viewers asked if the door voice was back. He lied and said no, because saying yes made it more real. And somewhere in the dark, something listened to that lie and learned from it too. The word Skinwalker kept showing up in his comments. Some accounts posted long explanations, how skinwalkers were part of Navajo belief, how the word itself shouldn't be thrown around lightly, how TikTok had turned it into an aesthetic. Others spammed, "It's def a skinwalker, bro. It's copying you." One night, when the house felt especially empty and the wind whistled under the eaves like distant breath, he messaged Ezra, the guy from high school. "Hey," he typed, random question. "Do you remember those stories you told about not answering if something calls your name outside?" Ezra replied a few minutes later. "Yeah, why?" Liam hesitated, then wrote, "My TikTok lives have been weird, glitchy, audio of me saying stuff I didn't say, and last night I thought I heard my own voice in the house." There was a longer pause this time. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared. When the reply came, it was shorter. "Stop talking about it on live," Ezra wrote. "If it's what I think it is, you're feeding it. They like attention, and they can travel in more ways than people think." Liam stared at the words, pulse pounding in his ears. "You think it's a skinwalker?" 3 dots. Stop. Start. Then, "I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are things out here that copy voices. They call. They test you. Don't whistle. Don't say its name. Don't invite it. And if you hear your own voice where it shouldn't be, don't answer." Another message blinked in a moment later. "And seriously, stop turning it into content." Liam locked the screen and dropped the phone onto his bed. Stop turning it into content. But the algorithm was already doing that for him. His lives were being clipped and stitched without him. People were duetting his face with captions like, "Watch at 0.25 speed, look at his eyes." He was flattered, sick, excited, and uneasy all at once. It felt like standing on the edge of something, a possible career, a possible breakdown, a possible haunting. He promised himself he'd do a normal live that night. No ghost talk, no mention of voices, just chill chat. Maybe some Q&A, maybe late night advice. The sun went down, the desert went dark, the temperature dropped fast. The house, built half a century earlier with thin walls and bad insulation, cooled with it, the floorboards stiffening and creaking as if the wood shrank in the cold. He set up his ring light. The circle of white ate the shadows around his desk. Beyond its edge, everything was a soft blur. He went live. "Hey," he said, forcing a smile. "What's up, guys? No ghosts tonight. I'm retiring from paranormal TikTok. We're just vibing." He checked the viewer count, 500 and climbing. Comments flooded in. Missed you yesterday. Door ghost back? Do a scary story, please." He laughed and shook his head. "Nope," he said. "Strictly wholesome vibes tonight. You want horror? Go to Netflix." He talked. For a while it seemed fine. They asked about his day. He told them about a weird old man at the gas station who'd stared at him a second too long. They asked about his mom's night shift at the hospital. He deflected. 30 minutes in, his shoulders had unclenched. The room felt normal again. Just 4 walls and a desk and a glowing rectangle. He was mid-sentence, and I swear the guy at the pump next to me was just when the chat started spamming. Echo? Double voice. Did you hear that? Why did you say that twice? He frowned, confused. What double voice? He asked. I can hear you X2, someone wrote. It repeated you, like right after. Glitch? His replay button wasn't available mid-live, so he had to take their word for it. He smiled weakly. TikTok's possessed again, he joked. Guess I'm haunted content now. Inside, his stomach twisted. After he ended the live and TikTok auto-saved the replay, he watched it back. It was subtle, but once you heard it, you couldn't unhear it. Every few sentences, a faint echo of his own voice kicked in half a second later. Quiet, like a whisper layered under his speech. It repeated only certain phrases. I swear, the guy at the pump was just... The weirdest part wasn't the timing, it was the emphasis. Where he'd said the words casually, the echo seemed interested. I swear, the guy at the pump was just like it was trying to understand. He closed the app and turned his phone off. The silence of the house pressed in like a weight. From somewhere beyond the front door, far away yet far too close, a coyote howled. The sound was long, rising, then breaking into yips that skittered along his nerves. Liam sat on the edge of his bed and remembered something else Ezra had once said in the back row of a boring science class. If you hear something outside that sounds almost human, stay away from the windows. They practice. They get better. He lay awake for hours, listening for his own voice. The house creaked. The heater clicked on and off. Once, just before dawn, he thought he heard a soft, breathy chuckle from the vents. And it sounded familiar. His familiar. The live that changed everything happened at 3 in the morning. He didn't want to do it. He told himself he wouldn't, but his comments were full of it. 3 a.m. live when? Go live in the dark at 3 a.m. you won't. Face your SKINWALKER challenge. Behind the jokes was something else too. A hunger. His and theirs. The need to know. To see the limit of whatever this was. That night, sleep wouldn't come. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, phone glowing on the pillow beside him, notifications from new followers pinging every few minutes. At 2:47 a.m., he sat up. By 2:55, he'd moved his setup. He dragged his desk to face the window. The glass reflected the ring light in a perfect halo. Beyond it, the outside world was black and depthless, like someone had painted over everything with ink. The porch light was off. The street light at the end of the road flickered sporadically, a weak, lonely glow. He turned the rest of the lights in the room off, leaving only the circle of white around his face. The contrast was sharp. Inside, bright, clear, small. Outside, nothing. He opened TikTok. His thumb hovered over the Go Live button. Ezra's message floated up in his memory. Stop talking about it on live. You're feeding it. Liam took a deep breath in through his nose. The air smelled like dust and something metallic, like hot electronics. This is stupid, he muttered. I'll just say hi and end it. 5 minutes. He went live. Hey, he whispered, keeping his voice low. If you're up right now, you shouldn't be. Viewer count. 200, 400, 700. It climbed fast, faster than usual. TikTok was pushing his live to the creepy side of the algorithm. Welcome to the 3 a.m. Bad Decisions Club, he said. No jump scares, just sitting here, seeing if anything weird happens. Chat flooded. Dude, this is such a bad idea. I love this. Window behind a nope, nope, nope. I got chills. Someone wrote, "Listen carefully. We'll tell you if we hear your double." He stared at his own reflection in the glass, his face hovering over the black outside. The minutes crawled. Nothing happened at first. He talked about mundane things, childhood fears, the sound the house made when the wind was strong, the weird hum that sometimes came from the power lines. As he spoke, he kept half his attention on the faint sounds around him, the tick of the wall clock, the distant rumble of a truck on the highway, his own breathing. The chat began to slow, people settling in, hypnotized by the late-night rhythm of his voice. Then, about 10 minutes in, someone typed, "Shh," another. "Did you hear that?" He paused. His tongue felt heavy. "Hear what?" he asked. A dozen messages at once. "Whisper." It repeated "you." "I heard I can see you." "Play it back." He couldn't. Not yet. Not mid-live. But he had a second phone, propped face down on the desk. He'd set it to screen record his own live from his alternate account, just in case. He told his audience, "Okay, if my audio's glitched again, I'll post the replay. But I promise I'm not doing any filters. It's just me and the dark." The chat. "Don't say the dark like that, bestie." "Something moved behind you." Deadass, I saw a face in the window reflection. His skin prickled. Slowly he turned his head to look directly at the window. All he could see was his own face, pale and haloed by the ring light, floating in the glass. The room behind him in the reflection, the lamp, the open door, the sliver of hallway. No one else. He was about to say as much when he heard it. Very faint, very close. Liam. His name, in his own voice, but not from the speakers, not from outside, from just behind his right shoulder. The ring light flickered. Just once, a quick blink. Shadows jumped in the room like something had moved. He froze. His brain insisted it had been an echo, or his imagination. The chat, however, had no such buffer. "Heard that? Bro, it said your name." Lip desync again. "Stop, I'm scared." His mouth felt dry. "I didn't say my name," he whispered. For the first time on stream, his fear leaked through clearly. People noticed. The comments turned frantic. "End the live. No stay. This is crazy. Plus stop, this feels wrong." He swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing visibly. "Okay," he said. "If this is just TikTok, it's the worst glitch ever. If it's not, then..." He trailed off. Something scraped lightly on the outside of the window. A slow, careful drag, like fingernails or something harder tracing a line across the glass. Every hair on his arm stood up. He didn't move. The noise stopped. Then, from outside this time, muffled by the pain but unmistakable, he heard his own voice say, "Let me in." His reflection's lips didn't move. His body jolted backward so hard his chair rolled an inch. His breath came in short, sharp bursts. On the phone screen, his viewers exploded. "Nope, nope, nope. End it, end it, end it." "I heard that. That wasn't you." He tried to speak, but his throat locked. For a moment, he just stared at the window, his own frightened eyes meeting his own frightened eyes. Very slowly, something else started to appear behind his reflection. Not a face exactly, more like a darker patch of darkness, a shape, tall and narrow, just at the edge of where the ring light's glare faded. It leaned closer. The scraping resumed, a slow circle on the glass. Liam. His name again, in his voice, but too smooth now, too right. It had learned. He lurched forward toward the phone. His fingers fumbled at the screen, hitting the X. TikTok asked, "End live?" with two little buttons, cancel or end. He slammed his thumb on end. The screen went back to the normal feed, an endless scroll of videos. No more chat, no more viewers. The scraping stopped. The window showed only his reflection again. The thing behind it, whatever it was, melted back into the black. He sat there, shaking, for a long time. Finally, he reached out and drew the curtains shut with a harsh swish. He didn't sleep at all that morning. At 9 a.m., his mom came home from her night shift, her steps heavy, her eyes ringed with exhaustion. "You look worse than I do," she muttered, dropping her bag on the kitchen table. "You been streaming all night again?" He almost told her. He almost said, "I heard my own voice outside the window, asking to be let in." Instead, he just nodded. "Yeah," he said. "Too much screen time." She grunted and went to bed. He watched the hallway until her door closed, every shadow feeling wrong. On his desk, his phone buzzed. New notifications, comments, duets. He already knew, before he even opened the app, that the live had auto-saved, that the replay was there, that people were already clipping it. He made himself watch it, not right away. He paced the house first, checking every lock, closing every curtain, turning every light on. The house smelled like dust and coffee and faint hospital soap from his mom's clothes. Familiar, normal. He kept telling himself that normal things could feel wrong when you were scared, that fear rewired perception. Finally, he sat down at his desk, the sunlight now leaking weakly through the closed curtains. He opened TikTok, went to his profile, tapped on the most recent live replay. His own tired face filled the screen. His own voice rolled out, low and steady. It was strange, watching himself from the outside, seeing the precise moment when his eyes began to dart to the window more often, the flicker of his gaze as the chat reacted to things he hadn't heard yet. At 8 minutes in, the first whisper. He cranked the volume up and pressed the phone to his ear. Between his words, power lines, and late at night, something else slid in. So close. His breath caught. He hadn't heard that in real time. He scrubbed back, listened again. So close. His voice, but not his. He jumped to the 10-minute mark, watched as, on screen, he heard his name the first time, the way his pupils dilated, the way his shoulders climbed toward his ears. The audio confirmed it. Liam. It was quieter in the recording, more layered. He could hear a faint rasp underneath, like dry leaves rubbing together, then the scraping, a thin, high sound, like glass under pressure. "Let me in." He stopped the video, hand shaking. The worst part wasn't the words or the tone. It wasn't even the thing in the darkness. It was the viewer count. Frozen there in the corner of the screen, a little number that climbed and climbed as the live got weirder. 800, 900, 1100, over 1,000 people watching in real time as something outside his house asked to be let in using his own voice. People were already stitching the replay, reposting it, sharing it in group chats. He scrolled through the comments under the replay. "Best horror live I've ever seen." "Okay, but this has to be fake effects, right? No hate, it's just too good." "Guys, my phone literally glitched when it said, 'Let me in.'" My screen froze. When he looked at the window, I swear something looked back. One comment near the bottom made his skin crawl more than the rest. I watched this with my headphones on, and when the voice said Liam, I heard it behind me in my room. Like not in the headphones, behind me. I thought my brother was messing with me, but no one was there. Another. After watching this, my phone keeps playing his audio, even when the app is closed. Anyone else? Replies under that. Same? I thought it was just me. My Alexa turned on by itself when he said, "Let me in." He locked the screen, pulse hammering. It wasn't just in his house anymore. It wasn't just outside his window. Piece by piece, replay by replay, it was learning to step through other speakers, other rooms, other dark corners, through every device that played his voice, through every person who stayed to watch. Liam tried to stop. He told himself he'd delete the app, delete the video, delete his account. But when he opened TikTok again that evening, thumb trembling. He found he couldn't. The delete button sat there in the settings, small and final. Beside it, his notifications badge showed 99+. Curiosity gnawed at him. Fear did too. They tangled together until he didn't know which was which. He tapped his inbox. Messages. Hundreds of them. Was that real? Are you okay? Please go live again and update us. Bro, if this is a bit, you're a genius. If it's not, don't mess with that thing. One DM from a username he didn't recognize stopped him cold. It was just a voice message. 22 seconds. He hesitated, then pressed play. His own voice came through. Hey, it's me, it said. For a second, he thought it was a clip someone had sent back to him, but the words didn't match anything he remembered saying. Why'd you end the live? It asked in his voice, calm and faintly amused. We were having fun. There was a soft crackle underneath, like wind through dry grass. Go live again, it whispered. Let me talk to them. The message ended. Liam stared at the waveform, his mouth dry. He checked the sender's profile. No videos, no followers, no following. Created today. He blocked the account with shaking fingers. The silence after felt worse. Like hanging up on someone who was still on the line somehow. He threw his phone onto the bed and paced the room. The house seemed to lean in around him. Every shadow looked like it was listening. From the vent above his door, a faint, familiar chuckle drifted down. His own. He backed into the corner, sliding down the wall until he sat on the floor, knees pulled up. He stayed there until the sun dipped and the house dimmed. In the growing dark, his phone lit up again. A notification banner slid across the screen without him touching it. TikTok, your followers are active now. Go live to reach more viewers. He almost laughed. It came out as a choked sound. It's just an app, he whispered. Just code. Just servers. It can't... From the hallway, his mother's voice called, muffled through her closed door. Liam? He snapped his head up. Mom! He yelled back, scrambling to his feet. You awake? No answer. He walked slowly toward her room, heart pounding. The floorboards creaked under his steps. He knocked. No response. He turned the knob and peeked inside. The room was dark, curtains drawn. His mother lay on her side, still in her work scrubs, breathing heavily, dead asleep. He stared at her. She hadn't called him. From the living room, his own voice floated down the hall. Liam, come here. He froze. It sounded like him. It sounded kind. It sounded like every live he'd ever done, inviting strangers to stay a little longer. Liam, it said again, come here. I want to show you something. His phone, still on his bed, lit up with a small banner. Live. Liam is streaming now. 3 viewers. But he wasn't. He hadn't pressed anything. He walked back down the hall, legs shaking, and looked into the living room. The TV was off. The couch was empty. On the coffee table, his mom's old smart speaker, the one that listened for her voice commands, glowed a faint ring of light. Liam, his own voice said from it, soft and coaxing. We're live. They're waiting. He stared at the speaker. It stared back with its little circle of light. The ring pulsed like a heartbeat. Stop, he said, his voice cracking. I'm not going live. I'm done. Silence. Then, barely audible. You already did. His phone buzzed on the bed again. He picked it up with numb fingers. The app was open. The camera was on. He saw himself, but not live. It was the replay of last night's 3 a.m. stream, the moment at the window. But something was different. In the current replay, future him watched past him. 2 Liams, layered. The version on screen turned slowly, to look not at the window this time, but directly into the camera, directly at him. The replay, Liam's lips parted. Off script, off memory, he said, in a voice that was his and not his. I can hear you again. The video ended itself. His phone went back to the home screen. He turned it off. Then, to be sure, he held the power button until it gave him the little red slider and turned it completely black. Silence. From the smart speaker in the other room, his own voice laughed quietly. After that, things blurred. He stopped going live. For real this time. He told his followers in a short, shaky video that he was taking a break. Mental health. Too much creepiness. No, he wasn't in danger. He just needed sleep. In reality, sleep was the one thing he couldn't manage. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard it. Not words, always. Sometimes just breath. Sometimes the scratch of fingernails on glass. Sometimes his own voice whispering phrases he'd never say out loud. He heard it in the house, in the vents, in the hum of the fridge. He saw it in the ways his devices behaved when they shouldn't. His phone, powered off, would vibrate once and show a ghostly afterimage of the TikTok live interface before going dark again. His laptop, closed, would leak a thin line of light. If he opened it, the camera light would be on, even though no programs were running. The smart speaker responded to his voice, even when he hadn't spoken. "I didn't catch that. Could you repeat?" it would say, into an empty room. His mum noticed he was jumpy. "You okay?" she asked one afternoon, squinting at him over a mug of coffee. "You look spooked." "I just need to get off my phone more," he said, forcing a smile. "The internet's melting my brain." "That's not new," she muttered. He thought about telling her everything. But how do you explain that a legend from someone else's culture had seeped into an app built for lip-syncing teens, and now something was crawling through chords and signals instead of dirt and sagebrush? How do you say, "I think something old learned my voice from TikTok lives and now it's traveling"? He kept quiet. A week passed, then 2. The longer he stayed offline, the quieter things got. The voices faded from the walls. The smart speaker stayed dark. His nights were uneasy but bearable. He started to believe that Ezra had been right. Attention fed it. Silence starved it. Maybe, if he stopped giving it content, it would lose interest and slip back into whatever cracks it had crawled out of. For a while, that seemed to be true. Then the messages started coming from other people. At first, it was one DM on Instagram from someone he vaguely recognized as a regular viewer. "Hey," it said, "this is going to sound insane, but I think I heard you last night." He replied, fingers cold, "I haven't been live in weeks." "I know," they wrote. "This wasn't on live. I was trying to sleep, and I had your replay on in the background, the 3 a.m. one, for comfort. I have insomnia, and after the part where the voice says, 'Let me in,' my phone screen went black, but the audio kept playing. Except it wasn't the same audio. It sounded like you were in my hallway, like you were calling my name." There was a pause, then another message. "You never knew my name. I never told you, but it said it, in your voice. I checked. My phone was off. It was, coming from somewhere else." He stared at the messages, nausea crawling up his throat. Another person messaged, and another. "I had your live replay on loop as white noise, and my Alexa started talking in your voice. I keep hearing you from my bathroom when I'm scrolling TikTok, even if I'm not on your page. Is there some kind of RG going on? Like, are you doing some viral horror thing? If so, it's working, because I can't sleep." He didn't answer most of them. The few he did reply to, he told the same thing. "Stop listening. Delete the video. I'm serious. Don't play it again." Some of them laughed him off. Some didn't reply. Some said they couldn't find the replay anymore, that when they went back to his profile, it was gone. He hadn't deleted it. When he checked, from his own account, it was still there. But it showed fewer and fewer views, as if the app itself was quietly erasing them. or as if people who'd watched it too many times were somehow being removed from the count. One night, at almost the exact time he'd gone live before, his phone lit up with a new notification. TikTok, your video, 3 a.m. live gone wrong, not clickbait, is gaining new views again. He hadn't titled it that. He had never titled it anything. It had just been live replay. He opened the app. The title had changed. Someone, or something, had edited it. He went to the comments. The most recent ones were strange. Can't hear anything, just static. This is just a black screen. Why is it just breathing? He pressed play, heart racing. The video showed nothing now. No window, no ring light, nothing. Just black. But the audio was not what he remembered uploading. There was breathing. Slow, measured, in his voice and not in his body. Then whispering, so faint he couldn't make out the words. The occasional flicker of a chuckle. Every once in a while, clearly, his own voice saying, "Can you hear me?" Then, lower, underneath, "I can hear you." He stopped the video, bile rising. It wasn't a replay anymore. It was something else. A live recording from somewhere else. Somewhere that still had his voice. Somewhere that was still waiting. He moved a month later, took a second job, saved every dime, and got out of that house at the edge of the desert. He found a small apartment in a city 2 hours away, in a building with thin walls and too many neighbors and constant traffic noises. He told himself that nothing old and hungry would want to hunt here. Too much concrete, too much chaos, too much ambient noise. He left the smart speaker behind. He bought a new phone. He deleted TikTok. For the first time in a long time, he slept an entire night without waking up in a panic. The city sounds were loud, but they were predictable. Sirens, brakes squealing, muffled arguments, someone's TV through the wall. He started to believe that maybe it was over, that maybe whatever had learned his voice from those lives needed the house, needed the land, needed the line of sight from his old window to the flat, empty night. He still jumped when he heard his own voice in recordings, though. He stopped leaving voicemails. He refused to send voice notes. One evening, months later, he sat on his new couch eating takeout, the TV droning some forgettable show. His new phone buzzed with a notification from a friend. "Yo, is this you?" with a link. He hesitated, then tapped it. The browser opened to a different platform, not TikTok, a compilation channel on another site, posting top 10 scariest live stream glitches. He knew, before he even saw the thumbnail, what was coming. Number 3, TikTok live SKINWALKER learns streamer's voice. The clip was his, the old footage, the window, the let me in. Except it wasn't quite the same. The brightness was different, the timing off by a hair. His eyes seemed to linger on the dark outside the glass a fraction longer. The narrator of the compilation video said his name wrong, got his town wrong, speculated about special effects, asked viewers to comment if you think this was real or fake. The comment section was a mess. Scripted but fire. Bro legit summoned a SKINWALKER for clout. Imagine if this was real, though. Liam felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. He'd moved. He'd deleted the app. But the video was still out there, copied and recopied like a virus, re-uploaded, recompressed, rewatched. Every play, every replay, every time someone shrugged and let it run in the background while they brushed their teeth or scrolled something else. More doors. His friend messaged again. "Dude, you should come back with an update. You'd blow up." He put the phone face down and turned the TV volume up. On the other side of the wall, his neighbor laughed at something. A baby cried 2 floors down. A car alarm blared briefly and cut off. Normal city sounds, no scraping on glass. He breathed out slowly. "It's fine," he told himself. "That was months ago. It's just a video now, just pixels." On the coffee table, his phone screen lit up again, washing the room with a faint glow. Without touching it, The browser slid away, and the screen changed to another app. An app he had not installed. TikTok's logo pulsed in the center. The screen glitched once, then opened on a live. His live. There was no title, no chat, no view account. Just his old room, lit by the ring light, the window black behind him. He watched himself sit there. His heart pounded so hard his vision swam, but he couldn't look away. On screen, the old him slowly raised his head, as if hearing something. Then, very deliberately, the version of him in the live turned toward the camera, looking straight at him. The lips moved. No sound came out of the phone speaker. The voice came from behind him instead, from the dark corner of his new apartment, where the glow from the TV didn't reach. "Hey," his own voice said, right by his ear. It was smoother now. Perfect. No wrong emphasis. No lag. "Missed you," it whispered. The phone in his hand vibrated once. A small banner appeared over the frozen live. "You are now live, one viewer." He didn't turn around. Every instinct screamed not to. His throat worked, but no sound came out. Behind him, the presence leaned closer. The air chilled, carrying the faint scent of dry earth and something metallic and old, like long-cooled blood. "You shouldn't have told them," it murmured. "You shouldn't have named me. But it's okay. They're listening." He stared at the phone screen, at his own face, at the little one-viewer icon pulsing steadily, as if it had a heartbeat. He realized, with a slow, sick certainty, that the viewer wasn't watching him through the screen. It was watching from the other side, from wherever it had gone when he cut the power, from whatever desert of signals and wires and empty frequencies it now called home. His tongue felt numb. His thoughts stuttered. Somewhere, miles away, in a stranger's bedroom, maybe. Someone had fallen asleep with a scariest live stream glitches video playing softly on their nightstand. Somewhere, someone had left his 3 a.m. live replay running for background noise. Somewhere, someone was scrolling right now, eyes half-lidded, barely paying attention, when a live with no thumbnail, no chat, and no title slid onto their For You page. A live with his face, his calm, low voice saying, "Don't worry, it's just a story." And if they stayed a second too long, if they turned up the volume, curiosity winning over unease, they might start hearing their own name whispered, perfectly, in his voice, from somewhere just behind them. Liam sat very still on his couch, in his small city apartment, heart pounding, throat tight. On the phone, the live timer ticked up. A001, E002, E003. He squeezed his eyes shut. He thought about smashing the phone, about tearing the battery out, about running it under the tap until it popped and sparked. Behind him, his own voice chuckled softly. "You can try," it said, "but I'm not in there anymore." The live timer kept ticking. Somewhere, a new viewer joined. The number flicked to 2. He opened his eyes, staring at the glowing screen, not daring to move. The story doesn't tell you what he did next, whether he stood up, whether he turned to face it, whether he bolted for the door and never looked back. It doesn't tell you if he's still sitting there right now, phone in hand, the live running on some hidden server, his voice spreading like a stain across the feeds of sleepless people. It doesn't tell you if, when you scroll later, in your own dim room, you'll see a live with no title and no chat and a single view account, and hear a familiar voice say your name. It only tells you this much. He thought he was safe once he left the house. He thought turning off the app would shut the door. He thought stories stayed in the past once they finished. He didn't know that some things keep streaming, even after you hit end live.